Welcome back. We're in conversation today with Suhel Seth. You started your career working in various advertising agencies, and then you started your own advertising agency with your brother, Aquas. Following that, you started your company called Consolage. Tell us a little about Consolage.
Well, let me just rewind. I only worked with one agency. I've been a pretty loyal person in terms of career. I worked with Ogilvy. I started as a management trainee in 1990 at a princely salary of 650 rupees, to which my dad told me that our chauffeur earned about 4 times as much, but that was irrelevant. And from Ogilvy, I joined a company to market tobacco products, which I shouldn't have done, but I was doing my job. Then I joined Peregrine in Hong Kong, which is an investment bank.
Sorry to interrupt you, but why shouldn't you have done that?
I think I harm myself. I'm not so worried about how many consumers I must have harmed. But in the process, you harm yourself. Then I joined an investment bank, and then I started Equus. And I asked Martin Sorrell to be a partner, Martin Sorrell, WPP. But I got tired of advertising, and I got tired pretty soon. I was meeting these young marketing managers who hadn't stepped out of their ivory towers, air-conditioned and plushly carpeted at that. They didn't know the market. They didn't want to travel. There was no cerebral engagement. You know, when we were in advertising, we'd go out and have a drink with a client. It was a relationship of equals. I've often said in my speeches, and advertising people are still gluttons for punishment to keep inviting me back, and I've said, advertising agencies crawl when asked to walk. That relationship today is one of civility. It's not one of equality. In 2006, April 1, and it wasn't a Fool's Day program, I decided to retire. I had enough money to lead a reasonable life. And then I met someone from the House of Tatas, and Mr. Tata and Mr. Krishna Kumar told me, you know, what the hell are you doing? How can you retire at such a young age? So I said, you know, I'm relaxed. It's a good life. What do you want to do? I said, I only want to advise chairpersons and CEOs, and I want to charge the earth. That's how Consolage began. So it began on the back of very strong and solid relationships.
But were you that confident you could charge the earth and get the right clients?
For the simple reason that there are 2 ways of playing any marketing game. Either you go through volume and you're a detergent, or you go through value and you're a bejeweled watch. Which one would you like?
I'll go for the watch.
Simple. So there's no rocket science to this. So when I was told, why would you charge the earth? I said, A, it allows me to get rid of all the fluff and the faff. B, if you charge a whole host of money sums, people listen to you with more seriousness. Otherwise, they don't, you know, heed the advice you give.
But wasn't your brother working with you in Aquas?
Yeah, and my brother continues to run the advertising agency.
But he was okay with you going your separate ways?
Absolutely. You know, I'd run Equus from 1996 to 2006 for 10 years. It was his business now, and, you know, he's running it. I don't get involved. I don't even know what they do, which clients they work with. The ability must not be to always live in the past. History is a country without any inhabitants, only memories or statements. So when I walked away on April 1, 2006, for me it was a clean break. I'd have nothing to do with advertising. I'd have nothing to do with Equus. I'd certainly have nothing to do with Martin Sorrell. May they rest in peace or turmoil, but I would have nothing to do with them. And I was very, very clear. You know, it's not that someone tells you, oh, but would you recommend an advertising agency, you know, now that I advise chairman CEOs? I said, I won't get into it. Because you've got to take not just a considered stand, but you've got to have the ability to move on and move ahead. You know, life is not an umbilical cord. Even an umbilical cord is cut at childbirth.
Well, some people keep latching on to it.
Well, no, if they do, they do. But, you know, at their own sufferance. Because I genuinely believe that you can't move on if you're anchored. Have you ever seen a ship sail with its anchor down in the sea? No. So, you know, you can't say, oh, I want to go ahead, but still I want to retain some of the past. And that, to my mind, is yet another element of the avarice of the normal human being. We don't want to let go. We don't want to let go in relationships. We don't want to let go in terms of, you know, the work we do. We always want to be there.
But don't you think that's human nature?
Of course it is. But, you know, human nature also needs to evolve. There was a time in society which, when we began, and I'm not even getting into who came first, but you look at the Adam-Eve situation, they were in love without being married. Today, you know, I've often heard the quote, and people ask me, why aren't you married? I said, you can either be married or happy. But that's not a statement on marriage. My whole perspective is that to each his own. Today, we've gone back to very high divorce rates because the individuality, which was suppressed over centuries by one dominant partner or the other, has now frittered away, and for the right reasons. Financial independence is not the reason why women or men come into their own. It is their ability to believe. It is, to use the word you keep mentioning, confidence, that yes, I can move ahead without someone's participation in my life. And it's not about dependency. So I think that, you know, the understanding of history, to my mind, is a critical element in defining the future. Living in history is a bad idea.
You've acted in countless plays, and you were also in the recent movie, Guzarish. Now, you're clearly a very talented actor. Why didn't you just put all your energy in acting and focus on acting? Because who knows, you could have been the next Bachchan or the next Khan.
Good point. But, you know, we grew up in Calcutta, which had a certain snobbishness about cinema. Even in Calcutta, when I worked with Mrinal Sen and, you know, I did the Ray short films, a lot of people said, oh, but why would you go to Bollywood? Why would you go to Bombay? So Bombay was seen as this really crass place which no one would inhabit. I did Guzarish because Leela Bhansali's casting director called me. I still remember I was in Spain on holiday, and she said, would you do the role? I said, I will only agree to doing the role once I read it. So I read the role. It was the role of a doctor. And the film, as you know, is about Hrithik Roshan being a paraplegic. And it's about euthanasia. And I had done a play by Brian Clark called Whose Life Is It Anyway? Which then became a famous film with Richard Dreyfuss, which is also about euthanasia. Now, euthanasia, in order to act in Whose Life Is It Anyway, where I played the paraplegic, I knew the laws that are prevalent across the world. And I also knew the passionate discontent that lies within the heart of a paraplegic. So it was not a cinema role for me. It was very expressive, it was very cerebral, and most importantly, it was very enjoyable. And Leela Bhansali is a great director. He almost takes as long as some of you guys must take to light up, but no, I'm just joking. But he's almost as laborious and as anal about the slightest of detailing.
But why didn't you give acting your 100%? Because when you were on set, of course, you would give it your 100%, but you were, you were so involved in your advertising career. Do you think if you just focus on acting, that...
Acting is too much of a gamble. I can tell you of some of the finest actors in India, some of the finest actors in the world, who've never made a mark in cinema. Great actors on theatre have not been as eminently successful in cinema. Because, to my mind, cinema is a lot about, it's like a gamble. And a film, you're only as good as your last film. And the good is defined by success. It's not defined by, the inherent qualities of that movie. Guzarish is a great film to my mind, not because I've acted in it, but it's bombed in the box office. So these are the realities that I didn't want to. And one other thing, I've never gambled. I don't go to casinos, I don't play cards, I don't go to the derby. So for me, cinema would have been a gamble. And I was too confident not to take a gamble, which I knew would be a gamble and may go either way. So it's not about being risk averse. I just thought the whole exercise to be stupid.
But I understand that no particular role defines you. But what do you enjoy doing most? When
Everything.
You're in front of the camera, when you're creating a branding strategy,
Everything.
when you're public speaking?
When I'm walking in St. James's Park here, or I'm going scuba diving, I enjoy doing everything. So in more ways than one, I am a jack of all trades and a master of none, but a mistress to the enjoyable vicissitude of life. And that's what we've got to be. This whole thing, please focus on one thing. What are you really good at? I don't know. I could make a very mean ande ki bhurji. So, would you say I'm a good cook? I could also teach you the tango, not that you don't know. So,
Actually, I don't know.
so then I could teach you the tango. But the point is, to say, what are you actually good at? You enjoy everything. And being good, to my mind, is all contextual. It's all benchmarking.
Suhel, you've been called witty by some, funny, and also a loudmouth. What compels you to be so brutally honest and forthright about your opinions?
I don't know. I mean, people ask for them, and I think rather than lie and have sleepless nights, I'd just rather be upfront. And yeah, see, I've come to a stage in life where I really don't care what people say. I know what I'm doing. I know I'm doing it diligently. I'm doing it with credibility. I'm doing it without an agenda. No one can buy me. No one can force me to say, what they would like me to say. And to hell with the rest. Winston Churchill famously said, the only person you've got to be popular with is your wife. And I don't have one. Therefore, I don't even have that noose around my neck.
So I speak my mind attitude, has that cost you friendships and relationships?
No, not at all. And if it has, which I don't know of, I couldn't care. Because if relationships can be ruptured or fractured on the basis of what you say and what you know is honest and credible, then that relationship wasn't meant to be. A friend must understand that I will take a stand. And my real friends do. For the rest, I don't care.
But
I'm not
it
here
is a
to...
rare commodity. Not many people are as brutally honest as you would be. In India, there are very few Suhel Seths around.
Thank God, otherwise, we wouldn't be relevant. No, to be fair, I think what happens is there must be very many brutally honest people. But we often get cowed down. Again, because we are thinking of the future rather than living in the present. We worry, what if I take a stand against this guy today and tomorrow he becomes important? Will I get messed up? Will I get strung? But you can't think like that. Man cannot live in a tunnel which is engulfed by fear. You've got to live in the free spirit of mankind, which is say things that you believe in. And if you don't believe in them, then don't say it. So a lot of the time, what happens is we are hypocritical. We say things that we don't ever believe. And it either shows up in the way we say it, or it shows up in our deeds later. Either of which is disgusting. So why would I say something that I don't believe in? So I will tell you straight. If you ask me a straight question, I will never duck the question. Because to my mind, you've asked me a question, you have the right, and I must have the courtesy to respond to you. I cannot create a situation where I obfuscate. And the tragedy is, we are too worried about society. We're too worried about what our peers will say. We're too worried about, will I get into trouble? Will I lose the next invitation to that party? And that is what drives us to this silence, which is so, it's full of subterfuge. If I can keep a woman enthralled or entertained, whose business is it anyway?
How come you're still single? Are you still single?
A man is only as young as the woman he feels. As of this morning, I'm 23. Who ever told you that everyone in the world was as sane as you and I?